We're gonna cut that short, but yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Spann Report podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 311 of this report, and yeah, man, it's been a eventful week, man. A shameful week to say the least, but eventful nonetheless. We got a lot to get into this week. A lot to get into. Breonna Taylor's the indictment has come down for the officers who are responsible for her death or lack of indictment, so to speak. So we're gonna talk a bit about that. Of course, we got some coronavirus news and whatever, and we've got some political stuff, some local news or whatever. We got some crazy news that we had happen during the week, but we're going to talk a little bit about all of that, man. We're going to get into all of that. But of course, before we do, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Spann Report podcast and let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit us up at the hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages, and of course, those messages will get played here and responded to here live on the show. You can also, if you're watching us live here on Facebook Live or YouTube or Periscope, you can call into the hotline and chop it up with us here live on the show. So go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get read here, replied to here live as well. We actually have a few emails to get to this week, so we're going to get into that shortly. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann, so you can go ahead and follow me there, chop it up with me throughout the week. Also, man, hit up our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there and watch replays of this show. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. And also, for those of you who would like to donate on a monthly basis and become a part of our Golden Circle with the Patreon patrons, those are the folks who allow for us to continue to do this show here live every week. Live, right? So go ahead and hit us up in that way, man. We really do appreciate all the support that those folks are giving us, and we would appreciate the support if you would like to join in that way as well. Also, you can hit up our store, cop yourself some merch, man. Get yourself a fly Spann Report Podcast Network t-shirt or hoodie or coffee mug or face mask. We got a lot of stuff in our store, and we really appreciate you guys for patronizing us in that way, man. Real talk. Also, 5-star reviews on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. It doesn't cost you nothing to leave us a 5-star review. Just let everybody know why it is you rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. But yeah, man, it's been an eventful week, to say the least. I got some random thoughts, man, that, I tend to have over the course of the week. Some things I be kind of like, thinking about as I go about my days and shit. And so one of the first random thoughts actually kind of lends itself to the title of the show, so to speak, because we were talking about voting last week, and like some of the responses that I got surrounding my imploring people to vote really struck people in a certain way. And one of the first random thoughts I got is like, yo, when have you ever felt guilty about being right about something? Like, show of hands. Like, if you're in the chat room right now, like, go ahead and put like a thumbs up or something like that. Let me know, like, when was the last time you felt guilty when you were right about something? Right? Because it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, the whole argument about making people feel guilty about not voting. If I was convicted in what I was doing, and if I felt like I was taking the right position, there's no way in hell anybody could guilt me into shit if I know I'm right about something. So I think it's telling that like a lot of folks are talking about, yo, you trying to guilt us in the vote. Like, nah, man, you only feel guilty because you have an inkling that you may be wrong about some shit. That's just how I feel about it. But that was something I was thinking about, man. Another thing I was thinking about this week, man. So I work all over like Southeast Michigan and stuff. And one of the things I noticed, man, when you have to do any sort of public works and stuff, like it's hard getting people to move their cars off of the street and shit, right? And in Detroit, man, I gotta say, y'all got to be the most driveway havingest, parking your car on the street ass niggas on the face of the earth, bro. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, why on earth would you have your car on the street when you got a driveway, man? You ain't even got to have that motherfucker out there. Now, somebody said to me earlier this week, was like, yeah, but like I got kids, right? And if I got to go to work and I got to go to work before my kids got to go to school, I ain't about to be getting this little motherfucker up to go move his shit. He need to put his car on the street. And like, I hear you. I hear you, but I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I'm just like, man, like y'all got driveways and shit, cars, and a lot of times like the cars that be parked on the street, like they don't work. You know what I'm saying? So the cars be like, just you can see like the car got like a fucked up rear view mirror and shit. It's all cracked up because somebody didn't hit your shit, or like it's a car that got like a broken axle or something that's just there, and like we need the car moved because we doing some public works and shit. And like we can't get your car moved because it's disabled or whatever. Put y'all shit in the driveway, bro. Put the shit in the driveway, man. I can't believe like because I'm originally from Chicago, and so for like the folks who park on the street in Chicago, it's typically because they ain't got no driveway, or they got too many cars in the garage because like they tend to have alleys, and you get into the garage from the alley or whatever. A lot of black folks, man. I'm sorry, not a lot of black folks. A lot of Detroiters, man. In order to get your car to the garage, you got to go through the driveway. You ain't got the alley, the alley entrance. There's not a lot of streets that operate that way, man. But yeah, man, I was just thinking about that, man. Why y'all be having all them damn like driveways and don't park your car in the driveway, man? It's something I was thinking about. Another thing I was thinking about, man. Do the dudes that like ride mopeds and blast like T.I. stand up on a mopeds, do they like graduate to the old head niggas that be having like Harley Davidsons and are blasting Computer Love when they strolling in the summertime and shit? Is that like a thing? Is that like is that the progression for those who are like 35 and riding mopeds and giving us all the trouble we can stand? And then you graduate to like playing Computer Love over the Harley Davidson engine and shit, which is something that I thought was interesting too. Like, cause I know a lot of people who buy Harley Davidson motorcycles, they get the Harley Davidson motorcycles so that they can hear the growl of the engine. Like the engine is part of the reason why you get a Harley Davidson. And so for you to get a Harley Davidson and then you trying to blast the music over the top of the engine, what you doing, man? Like, I just kind of wonder, are these the dudes? Like, are these the ones? Like, if you see a guy, he's about 35, he's still riding a moped, you know what I'm saying? And he's got the music playing. Is he going to eventually graduate to that dude that has the Harley Davidson motorcycle with the Computer Love playing as he rolls up the block? I'm just saying, these are some of the random things that were like, that were on my mind this week, man. Real talk. But that's one of those things. Another one real quick one. How old were you when you figured out that Eddie Kane from the Five Heartbeats last name really wasn't Kane, but his shit was King? Oh shit, I fucked up. I didn't have my shit plugged up. Let's try that shit again. All right, yeah, but how old were you when you figured that out? Because his actual name is Eddie King. I know black folks tend to like it's the Kangs. We're going to see the Kangs and shit. Like, and he said, "Hey, you don't want to fuck with Eddie King." You're like, his last name is actually King. If you look at the credits and shit, his actual name is Eddie King and shit. Like, I was like today years old when I figured that out, man. Actually, it was like a couple weeks ago when I figured it out. I was listening to I was actually at work and some old uncle like dude. He was driving the Lincoln MKT. You know what I'm saying? Not the MKZ. Not the MKX, the MKT. Now, the MKT is the one that kind of looked like a hearse. You know what I'm saying? And Buddy had the MKT, and he had a lawnmower. Like, he had the hatch of the shit open, and he had like a lawnmower in the back. But he was blasting "Is There a Heart in the House Tonight" by the Five Heartbeats, man. I had never heard anybody play that shit on the radio. The only time I ever heard that song was on the movie. And my man was riding up the block with Eddie Kane coming through them speakers, man. Like that gave me old black uncle vibes, man. Like it couldn't be nothing but an old black uncle that was gonna do some shit like that, man. And it could be nothing but an old black uncle who's gonna drive a Lincoln MKT. Because like I said, them things look like hearses. They might be nice as hell on the inside though. Like for real. Like they might be laid on the inside, but like the outside, nah, man. It was like for those of you who want to look like you driving a hearse, but you don't really want the dead body and shit, But that was my random thoughts, man. Real talk. But we got some listener feedback from the last show that we did, episode 300 and what was that, 310, and where we talked about no longer having room for the apathy and shit. And so it sparked a few responses from what we had to say last week. Let me go ahead and pull these emails up. And the first email I got comes from Reggie. The homie Reggie writes in and say, I noticed when talking about Lindsey Graham, you got stuck on saying the word suck in regards to his relationship with Trump. What was that about? Yeah, so here's the thing, man. I understand that like that sort of verbiage can be viewed as homophobic. And so when I was going on that, when I was on that little rant, man, like I was catching myself. You know what I'm saying? I was catching myself because I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that that terminology could be seen as homophobic, and I don't want to promote any homophobic thoughts or any homophobic just I don't want to be that guy, you know what I'm saying? And in trying to unlearn a lot of shit, sometimes you're gonna have to catch yourself, and that was one of those moments where I was like trying to catch myself from saying something very homophobic, and that's really what that was. But thank you for writing in, Reggie. I guess thank you for catching that. But that's what that was, man. We got another email here. This here comes from okay, they don't leave it, so this is the fruit. Okay, the fruit 08. And the Fruit 08 writes in talking about Chris Rock. I'm a long time listener, but this is my first time writing in, and I hate to start our relationship off on a bad note, but I have to disagree with you, Spann. Okay. In that I actually agree with half of what Chris Rock had to say in regards to progress in America and how it's viewed. I think white people, by and large, believe that they let a few of us in on their exclusive club, then we move the bar on race relations when in fact they're still gatekeeping to a large extent. And we celebrate the few they've allowed into the proximity of whiteness. However, I totally agree with you that it was a bit asinine for him to lay the coronavirus pandemic at the feet of the Democrats just based on the timeline you talked about during the show. So yeah, about the thing with Chris Rock. I as I was talking about that, one of the things that like was sticking in my head at that particular moment was I was thinking also of the fact that like Ice Cube was talking about how we've done all these like this voting and stuff and we ain't never got shit for it. And so as I was talking about it, I think I was thinking about Ice Cube at the same time we were talking about Chris Rock. And so when he was talking about like we haven't had any real progress, I was like in my head, they were like, it sounded like the same thing to me. And that's partly what I was speaking to, was that I think it's disrespectful for us to not to acknowledge the fights that were had before we got here, and also to like denigrate or like belittle some of the fights and the efforts and the gains that we've been able to amass over the course of time. And so although I think I can understand where Chris Rock was coming from in that sense, when you talk about like, white people being like, intellectually stunted when it comes to race and everything. I can understand that. But I think the other part about it that just wasn't really rubbing with me the right way was Chris Rock, to some degree, to me anyway, it seemed as though Chris Rock was belittling the amount of the amount of progress we've made along the way. So I just thought like something about that just did not sit with me right. And I think it's because of all like the cumulative things, especially going on with like some of the messaging that we're getting from some of the more higher profile Black celebrities and everything else. She also writes in and says, additionally, I know you took a couple weeks off from the show to mourn the loss of your grandmother, but have you thought about taking more time off? Your anger was heavy this week, and maybe you could use a bit of a break just for your own sanity. I can only imagine taking in all this horrible news just to get on the mic and talk to us about it in an audience, so we don't have to. But think about your health too, Spann. Just a thought. Take care. Well, I appreciate the thoughts. So honestly, and I think I've talked about this here on the show a few times, man. Sometimes like getting on this mic is like sort of like therapeutic for me. Like I get to get on here and talk about all of this shit that I've been thinking about over the course of the week. And I kind of purge in that way. Now, that's not to say that I couldn't, like, you know, use a break here and every now and again. And truthfully speaking, like, I do every now and again. There might be a week where you just don't get a show because, yo, your man's Spann tired, or I haven't had an opportunity to really sit down and think about everything that I really wanted to talk about. And so you might not get a show that week. But I appreciate your concern. The other thing I kind of want to get back to with the whole Chris Rock thing. I think that, like, for a person like Chris Rock, like when he talks about like blaming Democrats for the coronavirus, and you got guys like Ice Cube talking about, you know, we need to get something for our votes, this, that, and the other. I'm cognizant also of the fact that we're getting a lot of this voting, like, or lack of voting, or less enthusiastic idea about voting from some guys who honestly have made it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's coming across to me as real rich for like some dudes to tell you they ain't got shit, or we coming to get what we what's ours, this and the other. Like, nigga, hold up, aren't you sitting on about 50-60 million or some shit like that? Don't you got a whole basketball league that you like own and shit? Like, who the fuck are you to say that, like you here you are as someone who's made it, and you're telling people who don't have as much as you have that they shouldn't look out for their own best political interests, right? It's a real it's a weird juxtaposition to like listen to black people who have things, who've made it, so to speak, try to like kind of minimize the political ambition, the enthusiasm that one has in order to kind of upturn or at least go back to some level of normalcy coming, you know, when it goes back to like, you know, the leveling of the playing field politically. But yeah, man, that's just something that's like these past couple of weeks, man, it's just been like really, really bothering me. But like I said, thank you again for writing in. I appreciate you writing in, and I hope to hear from you again soon. Real talk. We also got another email here. This comes from, okay, they didn't sign off on this. Okay, but we're gonna read this. It says, it starts off, do you hate being a black man? I mean, well, first of all, because that's crazy, but also let me just go ahead and read this. I've noticed that you have a tendency to come after black men who don't buy into this feminized way of thinking about the world. Okay. All right, I can tell where this is going. Seems like every week there's a new black man to tear down. Ice Cube is your latest target, but you come at Terry Crews, Killer Mike, Chris Rock, T.I., Dave Chappelle, Dr. Umar, Tariq Nasheed. I mean, damn, man, I could go on. So I guess my question is what is it about being a strong black man that speaks to our people that bothers you so much that you would attack your brothers when they really want what's best for our people? What's Ice Cube's crime really? Telling black people to ask for something in exchange for their vote? What's the crime in that? Shouldn't we be doing like the LGBT folks that you paid so much? Wait, that you paid so much? Do you demand? Okay, that you paid so much do and demand something for their votes? Barack Obama got them gay marriage, but he couldn't do nothing for black folks. All right, so first things first.
What the fuck is wrong with you? You crazy?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna need y'all to stop saying stupid shit like that. And the reason why I'm gonna need y'all to stop saying stupid shit like that, because it's intellectually, first of all, it's just not true. It's just not true. Barack Obama did not get the LGBTQ community gay marriage. That's not how that played out. The Supreme Court is what got you gay marriage, so to speak, or same-sex marriage. That's how that came to be. Barack Obama did not give the gay community gay marriage. He did not give the LGBTQ community gay marriage. That happened through the Supreme Court, which ironically has a conservative bent. Even at the time when that decision was being made, there were more conservatives on that court than there were liberals on the court. So, like, y'all need to disassociate that talking point with Barack Obama got gay people the right to marry, but he ain't do shit for black folks. Like, that's just not how that happened, period, man. So how does that make sense? I don't blame people for not wanting to vote for Hillary Clinton. She called black men super predators while pushing the 1994 crime bill. And then the Democrats didn't seem to learn their lesson and nominated the guy who wrote that shit. Okay, so here's the other part about that too. Hillary Clinton at the time, I know like that's a real big talking point for a lot of you. Hillary Clinton was the first lady of the United States at the time. Hillary Clinton had no legislative power whatsoever when that 94 crime bill came to pass, right? She had no legislative power whatsoever. Now, your beef with Joe Biden, although a valid one, Joe Biden did write the 1994 crime bill. Also, Joe Biden also wrote the legislation that Bernie Sanders was promoting, which was the Violence Against Women Act. That was also included in the 1994 crime bill. Also, Republicans overwhelmingly supported that legislation. So if we're going to talk about this, we need to talk about this shit honestly. We need to talk about this with the context that it deserves. Also, like I said repeatedly on this show, if you've been watching for any length of time, especially you seem like you have, if you're going to like list all these black men that I've torn down. Also, black people were asking for that legislation in 1994. It is a really good book. I would suggest you guys read it. It's called Locking Up Our Own by James Foreman Jr., who kind of goes into the history of a lot of this shit, how a lot of these mandatory minimum laws came to pass, how a lot of the legislation around drugs and drug usage came to pass, how the mere idea of legalization of even a drug like marijuana, which everyone seems to be it seems very popular now to like legalize marijuana on both sides of the aisle. But back in 1994, that wasn't the case. That was like shit, damn near 30 years ago now. So like for those of us who were like there in 1994, who can remember this shit, who can go back and like and also take the time to like read up on it. Like, yeah, man, like it is not as cut and dry as some of you would like for it to have been. All right. But yeah. Also, he writes in to say they didn't learn their lesson and nominated the guy who wrote that shit. They didn't learn from the last time. And let's not go into Clinton and the Democrats giving us NAFTA. Again, factually incorrect. Factually incorrect. As a matter of fact, Republicans, as George H.W. Bush, the first Bush president, is actually who gave you NAFTA. But also, like in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, Republicans by and large supported that legislation. All right, Republicans. As a matter, let me go ahead and pull this up. So for you guys in the chat, you can see right along with me where this came. Like we get this from the Washington Post. It says Bill Clinton was certainly a supporter of NAFTA who pushed approval through Congress, but it was negotiated and signed by President H.W. Bush. Here's a photo. They got pictures of this shit. So let's pull up the picture of George H.W. Bush signing NAFTA in the law, man. Sign the NAFTA in the law. George H.W. Bush. Here's him signing it right here. All right. So they got pictures of this shit too. But it says NAFTA was a successor to the free trade pact with Canada. Bush had viewed NAFTA as a political opportunity and achievement for his re-election campaign. He initialed the deal on August 12, 1992, before the GOP convention, and then formally signed it in December of 1992 after he had lost the election to Clinton. So even while y'all are talking about Clinton gave you NAFTA, that ain't how that happened. That's not how that worked. Republicans, by and large, were supportive of that NAFTA legislation. So come on, man. If y'all gonna have these conversations, get your fucking facts straight, bruh. And be that as it may, like it's weird that like y'all would sit up here and talk about like NAFTA and the crime bill, forgetting how the legislature and the landscape of that was back then. Like even Republicans then don't vote the same way they vote the same way that they vote now, man. Like that context, y'all tend to get lost. Like the context is lost on y'all. Everything is fucking black and white for some of you, and you don't really understand all of the shit surrounding how those things came to be. Also, he says, and let's not get into Clinton and Democrats giving us NAFTA, which took tons of jobs away from the U.S. You know, we just explained how that shit happened. Just look at where you are in Michigan. How's that auto industry looking now that a lot of those cars are now being made in Mexico? Well, I guess we can blame the Republicans for that since we now know how NAFTA came to be. But also, a lot of the jobs that left here in Michigan, they tended to go down south, right? So there are a lot of auto plants in the South, but those auto plants aren't necessarily unionized. So what happens is the workers in the South who are making the same cars that the workers in the North would make, they're making less money than they would had they been able to unionize. But Republican legislatures will, for one, support right to work legislation, which would depress those workers' wages, and also they kind of like discourage workers from collectively bargaining on their own behalf. And truthfully speaking, for a lot of those workers, the money that they're making right now is really good money, probably the most money they've ever seen. And the idea that they could make more money, or like they've scared these people into believing that if they negotiated or if they unionize, and then like the plant is just going to pick up and leave, right? Because they want to go where the people are going to be paying the least amount of money. Now think about that for a second. The plant decides they want to leave your region, your state, your area, because the workers demand that they make more money. They're going to go where they feel like they can exploit people the most. Guess who's supporting that sort of legislation? Let's not get this shit twisted. Even foreign automakers are making their cars here. Like I drive a Kia, man. My Kia was made in Georgia. It was designed in California, made in Georgia. So like even throwing that whole idea that like, yo, the cars are being made someplace else. No, you got foreign manufacturers making their cars here too. The thing is, they're paying those workers less than the workers who are being unionized. So like, again, man, if you go right up here with this sort of shit, man, I'm gonna need you to get your facts straight. Also, as much as you talk about voting, you say it with a sense that you know how people are going to vote, and that if you tell them they just need to vote, they're going to vote the way you want them to. How are you going to feel when they take your voting advice and cast their ballots for Trump this year? Get off your high horse, man. You think you know everything and you don't. And it's quite clear that you have a problem with strong black men who want strong policy to benefit us. It's not too late for you to get off that cone train. So I'm gonna just say this here too, man. And this is a running theme, it seems like, with all of you types. The idea that you know, I have a problem with black men. No, I don't have a problem with black men, man. I have a problem with black men with platforms who speak irresponsibly towards the needs of the community. I have a problem with black men who have a problem with legislation being geared towards other people within the black community that just happen not to be black men. So when Ice Cube was presenting his contract for Black America, when asked about whether or not he consulted with any black women, and coming up with that contract, he had a paltry answer, which was essentially no. He didn't consult with any black women in consulting in coming up with that contract with Black America. So Ice Cube and to some extent Killer Mike, when he met with George, what's his name, Brian Kemp, like connected with him as a Southern man. Like let's keep this a buck, man. Like it's a lot of brothers who are like putting themselves in the position as if they're speaking for the black community, and they're not. They're speaking for their segment of black men, and that's it. And if you're going to be speaking for black people, you should be including the voices, and you should be including the perspectives of all black people. Don't get up there talking about you speaking for black people, and the only people you really giving a fuck about is just black men. Straight black men to like be real clear, because like when you start talking about like you mad at the LGBTQ community for getting gay marriage, like let's keep this a buck. Let's keep this a buck, man. Y'all don't give a fuck about the rest of the community. Y'all give a fuck just about your little sliver of blackness. And so if you're going to be just talking about your little sliver of blackness, say that. Don't say you're talking about the rest of us, because you're not. You're not, man. That's my problem. And so when Umar Johnson gets up and says some stupid shit, when y'all let like gang / pimp / comedian / whatever the fuck he's calling himself now, historian, Tariq Nasheed put out historical films full of bullshit information, when y'all like elevate motherfuckers like Ice Cube, who's giving you the most rudimentary motherfucking voting advice, when you elevate those sorts of voices, when those sorts of voices say something stupid and they have the ability to influence thousands, millions even, yeah, I got a problem with that. And I'm going to say something. And if anybody can say something about the shit, damn it, it's me as a black man who lives in this shit every day. who deals with the consequences of this legislation every day in ways that they don't anymore. Right? So yeah, man. That's been our listener feedback. But we got some folks watching us from Ghana, man. Shout out to Ghana. David Kagan from Ghana, man. Appreciate you watching and appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you stick around, man. Hopefully you stick around. But yeah, it is time for us to get into the news. All right, our first story here in the news has to deal with the death of Breonna Taylor and the aftermath of the fact that the Kentucky Attorney General only decided that he was going to indict one officer for wanton endangerment, and it wasn't for the fact that like they killed Breonna Taylor. It was because like he endangered her neighbors and shit. So we're going to read this story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. It says Louisville police say 2 officers have been shot amid protest. I'm sorry. So after the aftermath of this. The aftermath of this is that some police officers got shot during demonstrations after the fact, right? So we get this here from fox2detroit.com. This is Louisville police say that 2 officers have been shot amid protest over a lack of charges in the Breonna Taylor case. Police say a suspect is in custody. Police Chief Robert Schroeder said one officer is alert and stable and the other officer is in surgery and stable. He said the officers had gone to an area in the city to investigate reports of shot fired when they were hit by gunfire. Police officers line up in a row as protesters march in Louisville, Kentucky on September 23rd after the judge announced the charges brought by a grand jury against Detective Brett Hankinson, one of the 3 officers involved in the fatal shooting. Okay, that was the description. The shootings came hours after a grand jury on Wednesday brought no charges directly against Louisville police for the killing of a black woman, Breonna Taylor, in a police raid gone wrong. Police in riot gear, some with assault weapons, staged a heavy law enforcement presence downtown late Wednesday after dispersing hundreds of demonstrators from a downtown Louisville square. Now, here's the other part about this, right? So we talked about this last week when we were talking about like if you were someone who was against the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And you were conservative. The Taylor family received a $12 million settlement from the city of Louisville because they of course they were responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor with faulty warrant information, this, that, and the other. And just as a fiscal, like if you were thinking about this just purely on some fiscal shit, that you would be against like police wantonly killing black folks because it's costing the city money, like it's costing taxpayers money, right? So this came out about a week before they announced the grand jury's decision to not indict any of these officers for the death of Breonna Taylor. Now, think about this for a second. They paid this family $12 million for being responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor, but yet no one was actually responsible for her death. They didn't charge any one of the 3 police officers who killed her for her death. Now, they're trying to say, and they're rationalizing this with the fact that her boyfriend shot at them while they were breaking into the house. And by Kentucky law, if they were with police officers being fired upon, they are allowed to fire back in self-defense, right? But could it be like, think about this for us, like think about the weird, like the weird juxtaposition of this, right? So, and also I want our Republican friends, the ones who still, like, for whatever reason, are still fucking with them Republicans. But I want y'all to think about this for a second, because they live in a state where you can own a firearm, and carry it legally, and you can have a firearm in your home to protect your home, right? Someone is breaking into your home. Now, this is one of those scenarios where people talk, especially this is one of the reasons why a lot of people have guns. They have guns in their home because they're like, yo, if somebody come in here uninvited, I'm going to protect my family. And this is one of those instances where a man uses a gun in his home because someone's breaking down his door, and he uses that not knowing that it's the police, shoots at them, hits one of them, and they justify the fact that the police can like return fire while executing a warrant, but this man doesn't know it's the police. while he's shooting at them. And so you got somehow white folks, Republicans, who like tend to like, well, he shouldn't have shot at the goddamn police officers. If this had been a blonde white woman shot in her home and her husband or boyfriend or whomever had shot anybody coming through that door, the fucking NRA would have been all over this shit. They'd have been all over it. She'd have been all over Fox News as this, like, like the victim that she rightfully was. And they'd have been talking about Democrats coming after your guns and coming after your gun laws, this and the other. But no, they're not doing that at all. What they're doing is they're telling, well, she was attached to some drug dealers. And because she made some bad decisions, she had a bad choice in men, like she made bad choices in men, and she her boyfriend was a drug dealer, and her drug dealer boyfriend got her tied up in this nonsense, and it's because of her bad decisions that winded up with her being dead. It ain't the fact that it ain't the police's fault that she was involved with some bad people. And it goes back into that whole thing of we gonna besmirch this woman's character. Anytime like black folks are getting gunned down by the cops, there's always this retroactive besmirchment of their character. You always got to find some reason why it was justifiable for the police to go ahead and shoot somebody. All the time. We've seen this movie before. So this announcement comes, and before the announcement comes, they telegraphed that they knew it was going to be some shit. Because they started telling the cops in Louisville, like, nah, y'all can't have a day off. Y'all got to come in and work this day. They started, quartering streets off and shit. Like they knew that demonstrations were going to happen as a result of the announcement of these indictments. Like even now, the demonstrations are par for the course. Like they've counted this into the calculus, along with the amount of money that they will pay these families for killing their loved one. Like, okay, we'll pay off this money or whatever. Y'all go sit down somewhere. But also the fact that like, we know these niggas going to be out here in the street. Let's go ahead and quarter these streets off. Let's make sure the cops is going to be like on these, like we got to get the riot gear shit out. Go ahead and pull out the tanks and everything else. Like as opposed to actually seeking the justice, that some injustice is going to take place. And so you just basically make it so where like, okay, we're going to try to mitigate the harm, or we're going to try to mitigate the damage these niggas are going to do when we tell them some shit they ain't going to like. They telegraphed this shit days before they even like announced it. They knew it was some bullshit. And then you've got the Kentucky Attorney General standing there, Daniel Cameron, I think is his name, standing there talking about as a black man, he understands how painful this is. Like, really, nigga? Like, really? Like you're standing next to people like your cosigns are fucking horrible, dude. Like you went to the Republican National Convention and spoke. You got Trump's endorsement. You got Mitch McConnell's endorsements. Their name is dirt in the black community. How do you feel like you have the room as a black man to say you feel their pain? No, you don't. You endorse policies that exasperate that pain. It's craziness, man. It's fucking craziness. But 2 police officers were shot as a result of this shit. Not to say that I'm going to endorse the police officers getting shot. That's just not what I'm about. But at the same time, y'all knew y'all knew like that's blood on your hands too, because you could have avoided this by actually seeking out the truth in this case, but you decided not to. You basically pulled another bandage off of a wound that was like slowly like festering. Like you just pulled the bandage right off of that motherfucker and inflamed it even more. So yeah, man, that's in the news, man. Another story that we got here in the news is while we're talking about fucked up police is that a deputy in Los Angeles County is claiming that the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department failed to protect him during an alleged Compton from an alleged Compton Station gang. They got gangs within the police. All right, so we get this story. This comes from Fox LA. Let me read this. It says a deputy at the Compton Sheriff Station is suing Los Angeles County, alleging that the department put his life in danger when he reported the activities of an alleged deputy gang known as the Executioners. Astroberto Gonzalez, Los Angeles Superior Court lawsuit alleges discrimination, work environment harassment, retaliation, failure to prevent harassment, discrimination or harassment, and civil rights violations. He seeks unspecified damages in the suit filed Thursday. It says, according to the suit, Gonzalez, a decorated Marine Corps combat veteran with a diabetic daughter, called an anonymous tip line in February to report the criminal activities of a deputy gang at Compton Station, which existed to violate the rights of the public and other sheriff's department employees. The department turned over a recording of Gonzalez's call to the gang, placing the plaintiff in danger, the suit alleges. The department took zero steps to curtail the deputy gang, according to the suit. In March, Gonzalez met with Los Angeles Sheriff's Department investigators and again blew the whistle on the executioner's activities, but once more, nothing was done, the suit alleges. Gonzalez later learned that the department had taken several affirmative steps to assist the leader of the deputy gang, Jaime Juarez, who has been previously banned from being on patrol due to his involvement in questionable shootings, to be put back on patrol. In addition, Juarez, who had been transferred from the Compton Station due to his alleged gang activity and racketeering, was transferred back to the station by the department, according to the plaintiff's court papers. This created a culture of impunity and violence at the Compton Station, which had been shaped and enabled by the department. Now, here's the tripped out part, man. So folks want good cops to step forward and, and say what it is that they're saying. Root out these bad cops. Root out these bad cops. The fact that there's even a gang within the police department being like somewhat sanctioned, because apparently the police department or the sheriff's office hasn't taken any actions against these dudes whatsoever is wild, but also like par for the court. Like, could you really be surprised? You know what I'm saying? Could we really be surprised that there is a gang within the police when we've known for years now? Even the FBI has talked about this, where like white supremacists infiltrating law enforcement in order to not only gain the training, but also to like kind of enforce some of their white supremacists like leanings. Right now, the person who is supposedly the head of this gang, they don't have a picture of him, but I would assume that this person may be of Hispanic descent, because the name was like Jaime Juarez. But like the idea that there are gangs within the police and they're openly calling themselves the executioners. They have the leader who has already been involved in a questionable shooting. He's been back on patrol. Again, this is why people hit the streets, man. This is why people hit the streets. And then also it's just a sad, just a sad occurrence of events that a person who thought they were doing the right thing by coming forward to like pull the lid back and blow the whistle on this shit, and the powers that be allowing for that gang to fester and operate with law enforcement authority is fucking maddening, man. It's maddening. But that's in the news. Now, we do have a good story here in the news. It's not all doom and gloom here in the news, and this actually has to do with some still law enforcement, though, right? But here in Michigan, man, lawmakers have approved a bill that expunges marijuana offenses from criminal records.
Well, that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah, man. So we get the story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. It says Michigan would automatically expunge criminal records, an easy application process for those convicted of marijuana offenses under sweeping clean slate bills that received final legislative approval Thursday. Advocates said the overhaul would help hundreds of thousands of people under the automated expungement process, which would begin in approximately 2.5 years. Damn, they got to wait 2.5 years for this shit, though. People convicted of crimes would not have to apply. Their conviction will be cleared 7 years after their misdemeanor sentence, and in the case of a felony, 10 years after their sentence or the conclusion of their prison term, whichever occurred last. More serious crimes would not be eligible to be erased. The bipartisan 6-bill package, which Governor Gretchen Whitmer is expected to sign into law, would also allow people with misdemeanor marijuana convictions to clear the offenses sooner if they would not have been considered crimes after voters legalization of marijuana in 2018. They could start applying 180 days after the law is enacted. Judges would be required to assume that past marijuana convictions would not have been violations unless a prosecutor responds within 60 days of the expungement. application being filed. The evidentiary burden would rest on the prosecutor. In Michigan, an expungement or set aside clears the public record of a conviction, so it does not appear in the background check. Law enforcement still keeps a non-public record, but people no longer have to disclose their criminal past on job applications or other forms. So I guess like the one thing about this, the one caveat that I would have about this law is that like the folks have to wait so long in order for this to like have any sort of effect on them. Like having to wait years before this, like if you've been convicted of this, having to wait years before that's like totally taken off your record. Like if you're looking for work right now, like, yo, I need work now. I mean, I could use a job 2.5 years from now, but like I can use work today. Like, why are we like kind of like piddling around with this shit? Like, let's go ahead and make that shit immediate and be done with it. Like, why are we fucking around with this shit? I think it's a move forward, but I think it's just like a tepid move forward. Like they could have stepped into this motherfucker, man, but they like tap dancing around this shit. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there are still some Republicans who for one didn't agree with the fact that marijuana had been legalized here in the state, but also that whole law and like order, like sort of like bent that they tend to like promote. I think that has a lot to do with this, but also like again, you still just got people that just don't want you fucking around with the devil's salad, man. I don't know, but that's been the news, man. That's what's been in the news. But y'all know what time it is.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
All right, our first story here in Blue Blazes has to do with one BB Winans. I'm sorry, CC Winans. Which one of them Winans? One of them Winans. It's CC Winans. I'm sorry, CC Winans. Man, she was she was over the social media streets, man. Like folks was upset. Like folks was legit. Like, oh, what the fuck, bro? But like people had this impression that CC Winans actually is a MAGA, like a MAGA supporter, a Trump supporter, because CC Winans decided that she was going to do a coronavirus policy like video on behalf of the Trump campaign or the Trump administration. I feel like I did a terrible job explaining that, but we're going to read this story here. This comes out of lovebscott.com. It says CC Winans took to Instagram to offer a little more insight on the pro-Trump coronavirus ad she filmed. So there's video. Well, let's see the video. Let me go ahead and pull this video up so we can get some context around this shit. Do they have it here? Do they have it here? No, they don't have it here. Ain't that some shit? All right, you can't be teasing us like that, telling us you got video and you ain't got video. But we're gonna read the story. It says, in an exclusive scoop about how the Trump administration took $300 million from the CDC. Nah, man, that ain't what we doing. Oh man, this shit got me all over the place. But yeah, let me read. Let me read this story. It says in a video, she said that she was asked to do an interview with the Surgeon General Jerome Adams about the coronavirus. Surgeon General Jerome Adams was nominated by Donald Trump and took office in September 2017. CC says that her interview was not political at all. Interestingly, she did not denounce Trump or distance herself from accusations that she supports the current administration. See what she had to say about it below. Hey, man, I took that bait one time, man. Like, okay. Okay, so here's video. They do have video. This is from her Instagram. So let me go ahead and pull this up and let's see what CC Winans has to say about this. What's she talking about? Yeah, let's continue. It's me, man. Oh my God. Instagram, never mind. I'm sorry, y'all. We don't have it. We do not have it though. But nah, man, they don't have. I don't have a video. I'm sorry. But apparently, like she didn't disassociate herself from MAGA. She didn't endorse it. But here's the thing. And I think I get the we're talking coronavirus and it's a thing for a lot of folks. And I think with CC Winans doing anything with the Trump administration, I think that like you'd have to be oblivious in these day and times to like not think that anything connected to this Trump administration for black folks doesn't mean that you somehow have some level of endorsement of what Trump is doing, right? Like even with like, say for instance, I believe Alice Johnson, I believe that's who it was, who he got, like he commuted her sentence and then like he pardoned her whole shit at the RNC. So like he did that, and when she talks about her pardon, like she's grateful for the fact that he did that. But when you hear her in interviews, very seldom once you hear her like actually give Trump an endorsement. Like she's threading that fine line where like, okay, yeah, I'm grateful that you did all this shit, but I think she's cognizant of the fact that Donald Trump is using her politically. Like he's using her as like some sort of like, he would like to use her as like some sort of political pawn. I think she's aware of it, and she's like, when she speaks of criminal justice reform, she's really speaking the criminal justice reform, but she also understands that like, I'm not gonna speak ill of this guy because I want some shit done, but I'm not really fucking with this guy in the way that he thinks I'm fucking with him. I get that sort of vibe from her. And so like with CeCe Winans, I'm wondering if this is something that she's also doing, where she's like, yo, I just kind of want us to have some meaningful coronavirus policy, some meaningful coronavirus legislation. But like, yeah, I'm not fucking with this guy, but like, yeah, you know, like I want some shit done. And I wonder if this is what CeCe Winans is doing, because like when folks see anything, like, especially on social media now, when folks see anybody associating themselves with Donald Trump, they like, yo, man, like y'all understand that like we don't fuck with this guy. And you like kind of linking yourself with him like doesn't bode well for you. We looking at you funny, like you looking funny in the light because you was, you know, getting next to this guy in this way. And so I think that's pretty much what this is. Like, I'm not sure how much CeCe Winans really like, is she MAGA or not? Like, I don't know, but I get this feeling that this is what this is. That like maybe she's just on some, you know, I want some meaningful coronavirus like policy, and if I can get on this video and speak to that shit, and we get something meaningful out of it, I'm willing to do that. I just kind of wonder like how many people are going to like take that nuance and like and understand it, because like right now again we're in such politically polarized times that it could be hard for you to like, you know, punch through that. Like, and for Black women, it's even harder. Like, look at what happened with Chrisette Michele. Now, Chrisette Michele like has been canceled. Like, you know, I know like folks, we talk about like cancellation not being a real thing. Like, yo, she got canceled. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like a lot of the people who were her fans were Black women, and Black women were telling her, don't do this shit. And she did it anyway. And that might be the penalty, so to speak, for like going against what the fandom is saying they don't want you to do. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if she a MAGA supporter, is she a Trump supporter, or is she just trying to get some meaningful legislation passed? Like, we'll see what's going on. And to me, I hate that I couldn't get this video played because Instagram need me to log in, all this other shit, like craziness. But yo, man, that's in Blue Blazes. Another story that we got here in Blue Blazes has to do with the fact that Tory Lanez, man. Tory Lanez is out here kind of reckless, man, because it looks as though Tory Lanez just used his shooting of Megan Thee Stallion to like kind of drum up some publicity for this new album that he just dropped.
God damn!
Yeah, man. So we get this story here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Let me do this because we got a lot of shit going on here. I'm all discombobulated. But yeah, we get this story here. This also comes out of Love B. Scott. It says Tory Lanez has finally shared his side of what happened the night he shot Megan Thee Stallion. On Thursday, Tory took to Twitter to tease that he would be speaking at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which prompted fans to think he would be hopping on Instagram Live. Instead, as 9 p.m. rolled, Tory teased the release of a new something. Okay, let me go ahead and go to this original real quick. But yeah, it said there's a time to stay silent and a time to speak. I said all I could say on this, all platforms in 5 minutes. And he dropped a new 17-song album called Daystar, which is also his first name. Really? His name is Daystar? Okay. They talking about peep the track list. I don't give a fuck about the track list. And so like on one of the songs, apparently Tory Lanez is calling Megan Thee Stallion a liar about what happened in reference to her being shot. There's somebody got like a screen cap of this on Instagram. So let me go ahead and like play this real quick.
How the fuck you get shot in your foot, don't hit no bones or tendons? How the fuck your team is trying to pay me at some whole minutes? I just lost like $10 million because it's cold business, but I got like 10 million followers that's gonna roll with me. Fans that support.
Okay, hold on. Let me do that one more time.
How the fuck you get shot in your foot, don't hit no bones or tendons? How the fuck your team is trying to pay me at some whole minutes? I just lost like $10 million because it's cold business, but I got like 10 million followers that's gonna roll with me. Fans that support.
Yeah. So yeah, man, this is trash. And it's trash. And this goes back to, I guess it's gonna be another one of them black men I tear down, dog. I guess it's gonna be one of those things, because
what the fuck is wrong with you? You crazy?
Yeah, that's just stupid. That's just fucking dumb. Like, first of all, to use that situation to bring light to an album that you got coming out. Like, I know, like, a few weeks ago, he was talking about like his streams, or people were talking about his streams being down like 40%. He was talking about, nah, my streams ain't down or whatever, like as if that was the most important thing to be worried about in this entire situation. Never mind the fact that like you shot a woman leaving a car, like you shot her in her feet or whatever. And then to talk about, well, I'm going to be talking about this at 9 o'clock. First things first, like, I just thought about like, yo, do you have like legal representation, my nigga? Because like your lawyers would be telling you to shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, there's a history of some rappers like this snitching on themselves and shit. There's a lot of rappers in jail right now for some shit they said on record, right? But now you're gonna try to like call into question whether or not she got shot when everybody knows she got shot. Like, that's just what it was. We know she got shot, and so like to bring light to an album, like we got to listen to your album to hear your side of the story, is trash. B is trash. And then on top of that, again, like when we talking about black men, protect black women, you know, this, that, and others, a whole lot of brothers been going around, man, protect black women, man. Black women is the most disrespectful, unprotected, you know, people on the planet. Like, you got a whole lot of niggas who say that shit that don't believe it, bruh. They don't believe it. And this is one of those instances where like a nigga would say that and still listen to Tory Lanez. Like, I don't believe that damn like shit. I mean, she put out that song, man. Like, you know, she in the game. She know what's up. Like, niggas will have that sort of fucking rationale. Like, no, nigga, that's not how this go. And so for Tory Lanez, like, I just think it's whack, man. Like, this is just whack. I'm not even like, I've never listened to Tory Lanez. That's probably the first time I've ever listened. I've ever heard this nigga rap. I'm just being completely honest with y'all. I don't listen to this nigga shit. First time I've ever heard him rap. But for the first time for me to hear anything from him on a song, and it's you bringing up the fact that Megan Thee Stallion was shot and calling her a liar behind that, and to promote and using that situation to promote this album, that's some fuckboy shit. We got another story associated with this. Because apparently sources allege that Tory Lanez told Megan Thee Stallion to dance bitch before firing at her feet. So we get the story here. This comes out of complex.com. It says, before firing 4 shots at Megan Thee Stallion's feet, Tory Lanez allegedly told her dance bitch, and then desperate to fix his mistake, he offered hush money to cover it up. That's the story told to Complex by a source close to the situation. Tory spent a good chunk of his surprise new project Daystar, released Friday, attempting to refute Megan Thee Stallion's public account of the July 2020 incident in which she was injured following a day out with Tory. In response to Megan's accusations that Lane shot her, he raps, "How the fuck you get shot in your foot and don't hit no bones or tendons?" He also takes a swipe at Meg's management, Rock Nation, spitting, "I don't give a damn if shorty no jigger." Megan has publicly claimed that Lanez shot her in the foot on July 12th as she attempted to exit the car they were in following an argument between her and Lanez. Tory's security and another passenger, Megan's friend Kelsey Nicole. On Daystar, Lanez pushes back, saying that Megan's people trying to frame me for a shooting and insisting that he never put Megan in no danger. Now a source close to the situation is disputing Lanez's characterizations, describing a very different scene. When she gets out of the car and says, "I'm just going to walk home," he pulls out a gun and says, "Dance, bitch," and he starts shooting her. The source tells Complex. The source also says that Tory offered hush money to Megan and Kelsey Nicole in the aftermath of the shooting, even as Megan was receiving medical treatment. As she's going into surgery, this maniac is texting her, the source says. He's basically trying to say he'll pay. Her friend is also getting calls to receive money. He was trying to keep her quiet. Complex has reviewed Cedars-Sinai medical records from the aftermath of the incident, which are consistent with Megan's story that she was shot in her feet and mentioned shrapnel found in her heel. So yeah, man. Trash ass nigga, dog. Trash ass nigga. No other fucking way to put it. Trash ass nigga. I hope they put this nigga under the jail. All 5'2" of him. I hear. I heard he was a short guy. But yeah, man, that's crazy. That's in Blue Blazes. Duke mentions in the chat. He says, "I'm Canadian. I completely understand if y'all have to deport him. Send his ass to Saskatchewan." Yeah, he's Canadian. How y'all sending y'all guys down here to wreck shop, man? Like, how y'all sending these dudes like they don't know how to act, man? Like, that's the weird. Take his ass back. We should deport him. You're dead right, Duke. Send his ass back home. But that's in Blue Blazes. Another story that we got here in Blue Blazes. So apparently there was another Republican who did not take the coronavirus seriously, and he paid for that shit with his life. So we get the story here. This comes out of the Tennessean.com. It says former Nashville council member Tony Tenpenny has died due to complications from COVID-19, Vice Mayor Jim Schulman confirmed Sunday. Tenpenny was hospitalized for more than a month at one of the St. Thomas hospitals and was placed on a ventilator earlier in September. He died overnight, Schulman said on Sunday afternoon. "I am always saddened when I learn of the death of a former elected official," Schulman said in a statement. "My thoughts and prayers are with his family as they face his loss." Tenpenny, who served on the Metro Council between 2011 and 2015, was a conservative member of the city's governing body and represented District 16. He unsuccessfully ran for re-election last year. He and his wife, Robbie Tenpenny, are the owners and directors of the Lee House Nashville Recovery Residencies, the website for the business estate. "It is with a very heavy heart that I let you all know that Tony passed away yesterday. Please pray for me, our son Ira, and family as we process this tragic loss," Robbie Tenpenny said on a Sunday post on Facebook. Nashville Mayor John Cooper expressed his sympathies for the Tenpenny's family. "I am deeply saddened to hear the passing of former Councilman Tony Tenpenny. I send my condolences to his wife, Robbie, their son Ira, and the rest of the Tenpenny family." In the months before his death, Tony Tenpenny shared social media posts calling into question the veracity of the ongoing global pandemic and the government's response. Davidson County Juvenile Court Clerk Lionel Matthews Jr., who served on the council with Tenpenny, shared his condolences Sunday with a Twitter post. "I'm saddened by this news. Tony and I were very seldom voted with each other, but we respected each other. Prayers and condolences go out to the Tenpenny family. We have to continue to take COVID seriously until herd immunity is achieved," Matthews said. So, I'm just going. So like when Herman Cain kicked the bucket, they didn't. He still was on that shit. Like this. He.
Ho, brother. Whoa. Now you got too much dip on your chip.
I don't understand why conservatives just don't get this. COVID-19 don't give a fuck how you feel about the science, right? It don't give a fuck about that at all, man. COVID-19 is going everywhere, just like
I kill everybody up in this motherfucker.
Like that's just what it is. Like so, for yet another person of influence, he was a former city councilman. He was on social media talking about the COVID-19 being a fluke or a pandemic or however they talk about the shit. They don't believe in the science. That's crazy, man. And that craziness cost that man his life. Again, following behind Trump talking about this ain't shit. Meanwhile, Trump secretly knows like this is a motherfucking killer, as we know, as he talked about Woodward. Craziness, man. But that's in Blue Blazes. Now, another story that we got here in Blue Blazes, I think is like kind of funny though. The MTA in New York has finally banned pooping in subways and buses.
God damn!
Yeah, man, they finally did that shit. Now, I guess like the headline alone, I'm just thinking to myself, like, it wasn't already banned? Like, so So up until this point, right? Up until this point, like you can just go ahead and take a shit on the train, right? Because they had to do they just now doing this. So let's go ahead and read the story. This comes out of the New York Post. It says the only number 2 allowed on the MTA is the train line. The Metropolitan Transportation Authorities Board is slated to formally ban defecating on the subways, buses, and transit facilities during this meeting on Wednesday. The dirty deed is already barred under current rules. Okay. I was just wondering, man. It said it's already barred under current rules, would subject any rider to a $100 fine for creating a nuisance, hazard, or unsanitary condition, including but not limited to spitting or urinating. But the rule change will specifically add defecating to the list of bodily expulsions. Complaints of soiled subway trains surged in 2019, according to the MTA data. The agency had insisted at the time that the increase in reports of disgusting subway cars was the result of more vigilant riders, not worsening conditions. Yet transit workers have long complained of nasty conditions on trains. The workers' union, Transport Workers Union Local 100, launched a trash train photo contest last October to highlight the filth and the protest cuts to cleaning crews. The MTA did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The poop ban was first included in a host of new temporary emergency rules issued back in April in response to the coronavirus pandemic. The board will vote the board will vote on making the rules permanent on Wednesday. Like, why is there the need to make that a vote? Like, come on, man. Y'all know what's wrong. Go ahead and make the shit permanent. Who's gonna be the one dude to be like, you know what, man? I don't know. We should ban shitting on the train, man. Like, who's gonna be that one person? Like, if they own that board, and they need to be expelled off their board like ASAP. Like, don't even waste time trying to have a committee meeting or anything like. Get their asses about to pay, man. Real talk. But that's been Blue Blazers, y'all.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? This nigga just say blue blazes.
But y'all know what time it is.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yeah, that's enough of that shit. It's Proud to be an American time here at the Spann Report podcast. And our first story here in Proud to be an American has to do with the fact that nearly 66% of young people in the United States have absolutely no clue that nearly 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust.
Well, that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah, so we get the story here. This comes out of theguardian.com. It says almost 2/3 of young American adults do not know that 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust, and more than 1 in 10 believe that the Jews caused the Holocaust. A new survey is found, revealing shocking levels of ignorance about the greatest crime of the 20th century. According to the study of millennial and Generation Z adults aged between 18 and 39, almost half, 48%, could not name a single concentration camp or ghetto established during the Second World War. Almost a quarter of respondents, 23%, said they believed the Holocaust was a myth or had been exaggerated, or they weren't sure. 1 in 8, 12%, said they had definitely not heard or don't think they had heard about the Holocaust at all. More than half, 56%, said that they had seen Nazi symbols on the social media platforms and or in their communities, and almost half, 49%, had seen Holocaust denial or distortion posts on social media or elsewhere online. The results are both shocking and saddening, and they underscore why we must act now while Holocaust survivors are still with us to voice their stories, said Gideon Taylor, president of the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany Claims Conference, which commissioned the survey. Taylor added, we need to understand why we aren't doing better in educating a younger generation about the Holocaust and the lessons of the past. This needs to serve as a wake-up call to us all and as a roadmap of where the government officials need to act. So I'm going to say this right now, man. This is by design. This is by design. When you think about the attack on education and intelligence is attacked, so to speak. When people talk about folks who are college educated, so to speak, a lot of right-wing folks will tell you these people think they're elite because they went to their fancy schools and stuff. Or you look at how people say for instance Steven Jackson and Nick Cannon and Deshaun Jackson, and how they got kind of caught up into that whole anti-Semitic echo chamber while they're talking about I'm just speaking facts, when really they don't know the facts at all. Where like you start talking about like, and Hitler said, and you think that was going to like be followed by anything credible, that like you should be quoting Hitler as if he's saying something good, and then like juxtaposing that with like a benefit to black people, like that sort of thing, like promoting that sort of dangerous propaganda. It's by design. Like think about how like for one, who gets to manufacture textbooks, and also think about how what's taught in our American history classes, what's taught in our world history classes, what's taught in civics classes, like, and what is like what's taught in there and what isn't, and how it's being taught, right? Like think about, we read stories here on this show where like they tried to reframe the idea of what slavery was, where they weren't talked about as slaves, they were talked about as immigrant workers, and how that was being put into textbooks in Texas. Like how that conversation was being framed, and how the kids were learning those sorts of tidbits as opposed to learning what the actual conditions were. And so you look at how, like, I know we're talking about the Holocaust here, but like you look at how Republicans now are attacking the 1619 Project that was brought to us by Nicole Hannah-Jones, Pulitzer Prize winner Nicole Hannah-Jones. And the podcasts around that, and the essays included in that, and how Trump right now is talking about, well, we need to have a 1776 commission or some shit. We need to give our children a more patriotic history lesson, or a more patriotic lesson, or that sort of shit. Like to try to reframe the history to get you to forget and to sanitize it a bit. And so it's not surprising to me that like you got a large swath of young people who are educated largely by what they see on their social media feeds, what they watch on YouTube, and how that algorithm feeds you more and more shit that's like, before you know it, you're surrounded by only those who agree with your line of thinking, and you can be influenced towards that way. To where you got, how many people did they say were like flat out denial, like denying the Holocaust, or like they've seen like Nazi symbolism on the social media amongst their peer group, amongst their friends. And then on top of that, to like, you see the linkage of that sort of imagery with, like, say for instance, this is how you get people who find themselves putting up Confederate flags and Nazi swastikas together while calling themselves great Americans, right? We're going to make America great again. Meanwhile, they got flags, they're flying flags of two entities, two enemies of this nation, Nazi Germany and the Confederacy, right? Because the history is lost on them. This is why it's important for us to, like, when I talk about like some of the context of some of these historical events, when we talk about the political shit and everything else, I go back to the history of how those things came to be, to put those things into context to where you're not seeing them in the same light as you would on some pure black and white shit. You understand how that came to be. And if you don't understand how those things came to be, again, that old adage, if you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. This is a prime example of that. This is how you get someone like a Donald Trump who can say all sorts of crazy rhetoric, about, minorities and shit, and people eat it up. And like the denial of like the Holocaust, and not being able to name a concentration camp, not being able to not even having that history, although the history is right at their fingertips, right? If they look for it. You can go on YouTube and look up like videos about how World War II started. You can watch like a documentary, like what's my man name? Ken Burns. Like you can watch, documentaries about the Civil War and the Vietnam War and World War II and World War II in color. Like all of these things are available to us. The history, all of this shit is available. It's right in our pocket. Like at no other time in history has so much information been available to us at the palm of our hands, and still so many of us don't access it. Don't access it. because it's been made as an optional thing now. We don't teach this to our kids in the ways in which we should. And to some degree, it's us as parents, it's our fault because you are waiting for the school to do it. You're not putting books in your kids' hands. You're not sitting your kid down to watch a video about a certain thing that you deem important. You're not doing it. You're waiting on the school to do it. And then sometimes, depending on where you live, the school is selling your kids some bullshit. Especially for those kids down in Texas who are getting textbooks that call to work like slaves, immigrant workers. So, yeah, man, like it's crazy. Nearly 2/3 of U.S. adults are unaware that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. And this is how you get both like Steven Jackson and Deshaun Jackson, and in addition to them, Nick Cannon, getting in front of microphones, getting in front of cameras, saying some wild shit because they don't understand the history. That's crazy. But that's a proud to be an American. Another story that we got here, proud to be an American, is here in Michigan. So we talked a little bit about this last week. There was a mother who was blaming the fact that there's a mask mandate for high school athletes, that they have to wear masks while they're competing in these sports. And she blamed the mask for her son getting a concussion. Never mind the fact that her son plays the sport of football. But apparently there are parents who went to the state capitol to rally to get the mask mandate lifted for students who are athletes. So there's video attached to this. So let me go ahead and pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with me. Hold on just a second here. Here we go as we pull this up from, I think this is from Channel 4 here in Detroit. All right. Yeah, here we go. Let's check this video out. All right, let's act like we're trying to podcast today, computer. Let's
Fall sports are back, but not everybody is satisfied.
Enforcing this, mandating this on our kids against parents' will.
Tonight, some parents are pushing back against the mask requirement for student athletes.
Michigan's high school athletes are back on the field practicing and playing games, all the while wearing masks per the governor's order.
But some parents and students believe they should be unmasked, and they took their request to the steps of the state capitol today. Jamie Edmonds live with the argument they're making.
Okay, first things first, I'm noticing that the problem with the mask wearing and the people at this demonstration, the protest seems to be very monochrome, and it's one way. And yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And what the science says. Jamie.
Good evening, Devin. About 150 people rallied in Lansing today, united in that argument that kids playing sports shouldn't be masked.
This is wrong. This is tyranny.
The rally was called Unmask Our Athletes. They believe kids wearing masks while physically exerting themselves on the playing field is not just a nuisance, but a danger.
And this is so dangerous and so unhealthy for our kids. Our kids need oxygen, especially during high energy and exercise.
The organizer, Amanda Contat Sloan, tells me they want their voices heard. They've emailed senators, met with state reps, and signed petitions. They want to see the science behind the mandate. I asked Dr. McGeorge his thoughts on athletes wearing masks.
So the exact risk of transmission during contact sports is not completely known, but by their very nature, heavily breathing people coming in contact for a cumulative period of time over 15 minutes certainly makes spread very possible, and masks can decrease the risk.
Dr. McGeorge also says kids can and do spread the virus.
Kids do get infected, kids do act as a reservoir, and they can spread it to other kids and adults.
Dr. John A. Caldoun, the state's chief medical officer, has previously said if a player can't wear a mask while playing, they should not play. The rally participants say it should be up to the parents to decide if their kids are masked or not.
Parents should have a choice to advocate for their kids' safety and health.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. You do have a choice. Wear the mask or don't. Play the game or don't. That is your choice. Like, you got the choice. Hey, if your kid doesn't wear the mask, they can't play. Simple as that. Simple as that. Like, I haven't watched a game of football this year. Not yet, anyway. Well, for one, like, I just haven't. But like the idea that like you feel like you know more than the scientists. This is that whole thing of I'll put it to you like this. And I think I said this earlier this week. Excuse me. Conservatives have convinced people that conservatives have convinced people that selfishness is synonymous with freedom. They've convinced people that education is ungodly. They've convinced people that being respectful is political correctness. And even if you were to present them with the science, unless it vibes with whatever it is they want, the science is also phony. So, like, this idea that I want my kid to play this game and they should be able to do this unmasked, despite the fact that we're in a fucking pandemic, despite that fact, right? It's like we're living in a parallel universe amongst people. Like we're both in different, like we're in the same plane, like we're on the same like earth and shit, but we're living with people who just aren't on the same like on the planet. Like we live like it, like we can't even agree on what the truth is. Like there used to be objective truths. We can't even agree on that kind of shit anymore. Like objective truths, we don't have it. Because you got people right now who think that they know more than the experts do. That's crazy to me. Absolutely nuts. This is the same woman who thought that her son got hurt playing football because he was wearing a mask, not that because he was playing fucking football. And they went to Lansing and they demonstrated that they don't want to wear a mask. Like, dude, like, proud to be an American, y'all. Proud to be an American. Why are we talking football, man? Why are we talking this shit? So there was a woman who went to a football game and she decided that she wasn't gonna wear her mask. And the police, they tased her ass, yo.
Ho, brother. Whoa. Now, you got too much dip on your chip.
So we get the story. This comes out of 13abc.com. Is there a video attached to this? I'm sure there is. It's got to be video of this happening. And she's a white lady. So let's go ahead and let's read this story real quick. It says, an Ohio woman is facing criminal charges after refusing to follow school policies and leave a youth football game when asked, according to the police. The Logan Police Department said school resource officer Chris Smith was working 7th and 8th grade football game at Logan High School on Wednesday evening. Smith's duties include ensuring fans and athletes were in compliance to guidelines from the CDC, Ohio Department of Health, Ohio Athletic Association, and Logan Hawkins School District while in attendance. One of the district's policies is that the spectators was wear a mask when on school property, including at athletic functions. According to police, Smith saw a woman later identified as Alicia Kitts in the stands without a mask. After being told by the school resource officer several times to put on a mask, Kitts said she had asthma and refused to put her face covering on. So, let's go ahead and pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with your mans. Here we go.
I am. Put your hand behind your back. I will not put my hand behind my back. I'm not friendly doing nothing wrong.
Hey. So check this out though, right? So, if you've noticed, she's being very combative with this police officer. Very combative, like not complying with any of the fucking like lawful orders that she's receiving right now. Like just being really fucking rambunctious in this moment, right? Really rambunctious. Uh-oh. Play.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my God. Get off of me. You're not arresting me for nothing. I am doing nothing wrong. What the fuck is wrong with you people? This is over a mask. Oh my God. You're not arresting me.
Also, I don't know, like the lady who's videotaping this shit, I don't know how she feels about it. She's like, this is over a mask. I don't know if she feels like, oh, girl is out of line or if the police officer is overreacting. However, this is this lady is acting the fuck up. She got the mask in her pocket. I'm looking at it right now. If you're watching here, like, her mask is in her back pocket right there. She just refused to put the motherfucker on.
Not doing nothing wrong.
It's not.
You're not arresting me for not doing nothing wrong.
Again, like she's talking to this dude like he has no authority whatsoever. You're not arresting me over nothing. Stop it.
Let's go like red. Oh my God. Oh my God, mother. This is bullshit. You're not arresting me.
Is he an actual police officer? I don't know. Somebody needs to call the police.
So so check this out. Somebody just asked the lady recording, is he actually a police officer as he has fucking police on his shoulders? Now, keep in mind, the officer who was trying to apprehend this woman at this moment, he's black. The woman who's, being belligerent and not wanting to comply with a police officer's orders is white. They're questioning his legitimacy as a police officer in this moment. He's in fucking uniform. He's in uniform. Is he actually a police officer? Like, think about that for a minute, man.
I don't think he can arrest her for not wearing a mask. This is not a warning. Call the cops, Raven.
Call the cops?
Yeah, will you talk to them?
Hold on. He's the police. He's the police. They talking about call the cops. He is the police. They don't respect shit. He's the cops talking about some call the police. He is the police. Oh, man.
I don't know if he's a real officer. It says police on the side and on his back. That doesn't mean anything.
Hold on. It says police on the side and on his back. That don't mean anything. Again, this ain't got shit to do with like, because I know like a lot of times, man, like white people be like, well, it was a black officer that killed this, that, and the other. Like, yo, we got problems with them too. But also, here is a police officer doing his fucking job. Apparently, he's treating her the way that y'all treat us by and large. And y'all don't even look at him as a legitimate cop because of the fact that what's happening is happening to a white woman. We got white women behind the camera right now questioning his legal authority to do what the fuck it is he's doing right now, questioning whether or not he's a legitimate police officer because of the fact that this is happening to a white woman. There's no other explanation for this. No other explanation for that reaction.
But he may be, Bridget, because there's a cop car over there. There's a cop car over there. Do you want to call him? Tase somebody over a mask. Tasing this lady over not wearing a damn mask.
Me to go back to Florida. This is bullshit. I am going to leave and I'm come on, it's just a pass. And I'm going to sue you for knocking me down. I'm going to. Get my kids and let's go.
Arresting her for a mask, not wearing a mask, and he ain't even got one on.
Right.
Hey, where's your mask?
Never we're stacking together now, right, guys? We've done this how many times together? How many times have we done?
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes another rent-a-cop right there.
Now they rent-a-cop.
That's bullshit, isn't it?
Now they rent-a-cops. Oh my God. Like, yo, so yeah, man. Crazy. Fucking crazy, man. But yo, proud to be an American, man. Proud to be a motherfucking American. They really legitimately questioned whether that brother was a fucking cop. They couldn't believe it. But that's proud to be an American. Excuse me. Another story that we got in proud to be an American is so voting is happening. As a matter of fact, your man Spann voted today. I got my ballot in the mail, my absentee ballot. filled that bitch out as soon as it came in, and took it right back up to the clerk's office. I ain't waste no time. 30 minutes, boom, your man Spann. Voting is done. I voted on September 26th, man. Get it done as soon as possible. If you know how you're voting, don't wait. What the fuck you waiting for? Go ahead, get your vote in, right? But voters are like voting early in Virginia. And in Virginia, Trump supporters are actually trying to disrupt the early voting and intimidate voters while they're going to cast their ballots.
God damn!
So we read the story here. This comes out of yahoonews.com. It says a group of Trump supporters waving campaign flags disrupted the second day of early voting in Fairfax, Virginia on Saturday, chanting 4 more years as voters entered a polling location and at one point forming a line that voters had to walk around outside the site. County election officials eventually were forced to open up a larger portion of the Fairfax County Government Center to allow voters to wait inside away from the Trump enthusiasts. Election officials said that the group stayed about 100 feet from the entrance to the building, and contrary to posts on social media, were not directly blocking access to the building, but they acknowledged that some voters and polling staff members felt intimidated by what some saw as protesters. Citizens coming into and leaving the building did have to go by them. Gary Scott, the general registrar of Fairfax County, said in the statement, those voters who were in line outside of the building were moved inside and we continued operations. Some voters and election staff did feel intimidated by the crowd, and we did provide escorts past the group. One of the escorts was the county executive. In the unnerved electorate, where concerns about voting rights and safety voting amid the coronavirus pandemic are at a fever pitch, the demonstration outside of a polling place served as a preview of a likely contentious election season and how groups may be utilizing tactics to rattle and even deter voters over the next 6 weeks. And so I wanted to like kind of point this out only because like we were talking about like guys like Ice Cube last week, you know, saying that like, you know, Black people weren't killed for voting, despite the fact that historically that's just not true. And the penchant for some to like trying to tamp down your enthusiasm about voting, or those who would say that you are guilting them into voting. And like I said, the question that I had at the start of this show was like, have you ever felt guilty about some shit that you were wrong about, that you were right about? Like, no one can guilt you on some shit that you felt like you were right about. The only time you would feel guilty is if you know you're wrong about some shit. And I think a lot of people who sit around and talk about this choice, right? Like, folks will talk about my ancestors didn't die for my right to vote. They died to give me the choice to vote or not. And to that, I just really would say, like, a lot of Republicans will thank you. And a lot of them are working right now to where you don't even have to worry about that choice anyway. They're working to take that away from you too. You don't have to worry about the choice. We got you. We're going to take care of that for you. You don't got to worry about it. And the question that I have for a lot of you who would still, after seeing as much as we've seen over the course of this 4 years of Donald Trump in the Oval Office, the question that I would have for a lot of you is, what has your apathy gotten us? What has your apathy ever gotten anybody? What is apathy? How has apathy helped anyone? For those of you who would talk about Black people voting and the importance of us voting and looking for people who are closer to our interest. So when I talk about Black people voting, I mean, like, yeah, you like so that the email I got earlier about me knowing how Black people are voting and just telling Black people to go vote, like, obviously you're not listening to the content that I'm presenting to you, because I'm giving you evidence of your votes being taken away from you. I'm giving you evidence of them trying to stop you from going to the polling place. I'm giving you evidence of the history of them doing this. And yet and still you would sit here and say that, like, but yo, what was Ice Cube's biggest crime? Ice Cube is doing the exact same thing that these Trump supporters are doing by trying to tamp down your enthusiasm about voting and who you really should be voting for in this moment. And I would have taken Ice Cube a little bit more seriously had Ice Cube been involved in this process a hell of a lot longer. Ice Cube jumped in this shit about a month and a half ago. We already got fucking nominees now. I don't see what these Trump voters or these Trump supporters or demonstrators doing any differently than the shit that I see guys like Ice Cube or Killer Mike, what they've been doing. Like, I don't see those things as different. And the reason why I don't see those things as different is because I understand the history. And if you understand the history, then you're looking at this shit like, man, what the fuck are y'all doing? Now ain't the time for this shit. I don't have time for your hypotheticals. I don't have time for your apathy. And I ain't got time for you to be shitting on people who really want this shit to end. Also, to you motherfuckers who were like, yeah, man, but like if we get 4 more years of Trump, man, like then we can get the revolution. You know what I'm saying? Because we can galvanize a whole hell of a lot of people. It's people galvanized now and y'all trying to tamp them down. Why is that? Why is that? Donald Trump has presented you with nothing. Like, yeah, he was that what was that? I'm sorry, a couple days ago, yesterday or whatever, he presented his platinum plan. Hey man, you've been president 4 years. Why it take you up until like 40 days before it's time for us to vote again for you to present anything towards the black community? Also, Donald Trump has talked about how he took up criminal justice reform. Like we did more. Our administration has done more for black folks since Abraham Lincoln. While privately talking to his motherfucking advisor saying like, well, why did I do this criminal justice reform shit if black people ain't going to like, they not voting for me? Like Donald Trump sees this shit as purely fucking transactional. He don't give a fuck about you. We made that clear he's made that clear. We've talked about that for years here now on the show. So the apathy doesn't help. Doesn't help. The trying to parse or trying to thread the needle on historical facts that Ice Cube attempted to do last week does not help. Anybody telling you that you shouldn't vote or that this is about your choice, that the ancestors died for your choice, they suspect. And I wouldn't listen to them because it ain't got shit to do with your choice. They didn't choose to die for you to choose to just not do what the fuck they needed you to do. They went out to go vote, and going to go vote got them killed. They went out and registered to vote, and going to register to vote got them killed. They went to go register other people to go vote, and going to register other people to vote got them killed. That's not guilting you. That's giving you a motherfucking fact. Does a fact bother you? Then maybe you're guilty because you know you fucking wrong. Maybe that's why you're feeling a little guilty. And your apathy ain't helping nobody. The time for the games is over. You got Trump voters out here right now trying to intimidate people to get them to not vote. You got Donald Trump out here right now questioning the legitimacy of this election because if he loses, chances are he's not going to want to just leave. You know why Donald Trump ain't going to want to fucking leave? Donald Trump has legal problems up the ass when he's not longer the president. Up the ass, bro. Could get put away for a long time. Like, it's dire. Like, like I don't think people realize and recognize how real this shit is at this point. Like how we're on the precipice of something big happening in this nation. You got a lot of people who just, they getting along or whatever. They not paying attention and they cool with being oblivious. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. We're saddled with the burden of knowing things. But I'm going to tell you this. Apathy ain't never got us shit. And you only feel guilty when you know you're wrong. So yeah, man. We ain't got no champ of the week this week. It's been hard finding some people that have been doing some real dope shit this week. I'm just being honest. We ain't got no champ of the week this week. But I did wanted to I did wanted to promote that message, man. Like we got to do this, man. Like I think for a large segment of folks, man, we're just not really understanding everything that's at stake if we don't do this now. For real. So yeah, man, it's about time for us to get on up out of here. But of course, before we leave, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages, and of course, those messages will get read here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and those emails will get read here and replied to here live as well. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, man, hit up our website at www.thespannreport.com. Go there, watch replays of the show. You can vote in the polls when we put those polls up. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. But I've been running my mouth for a little while, and it's time for me to get on up off this mic. But until next time, fam, peace.